It's your favorite day of the week, baby. Happy Wellness Wednesday, you guys. Happy Wellness Wednesday. We're very happy to be here. I hope you are too. And have we got something good for you? We're going to talk about optimizing your body composition and your health, how your brain works, in regards to the timing of your eating and what you eat, but the timing. Do not be an in-betweener. Do not be an in-betweener, and what does that mean? Don't be somebody who eats once every 6 hours, and you eat twice a day, and you don't eat a lot, and you don't eat a lot of protein. Here's the gist of it for those of you who just want that. Either intermittent fast, at least 16 hours. If you're in your reproductive years, I say typically no more than 18 hours. Run into hormonal issues, fertility issues, irregular periods, things of that nature. Or you can eat really frequently, every 2 to 3 hours, to boost your metabolism and just how your body is functioning overall, hormone levels, things of that nature. That's the long and short of it. Don't be an in-betweener. The composition of your food matters. What's in the calories, not as simple as calories in, calories out, because it's about how you're manipulating your hormone levels that control rates of, say, fat production or muscle growth or all these things that also affect metabolism, right? Composition of your food and the timing. If you're gonna get nothing else out of this video, man, that's what you guys are gonna take, I hope. So what is it about eating frequently that is good, and what is it about fasting that is good, and why should we not be in the middle? Well, let's start with eating frequently. So many people say, hey, Dr. Shane, why do you recommend that I intermittent fast and I starve myself all day? First off, don't starve yourself. You know, if you have to get used to it in the beginning, maybe your body's not used to it, okay. Healthy form of stress is fasting. It's a form of hormesis, healthy form of stress, building resilience in the body, improving how your cells work overall. But why do you tell people to do that? I don't tell everyone to do that. It depends on your schedule. You can eat frequently and be very healthy and look and perform and feel very good. So when it comes to eating frequently, where is this benefit coming from? When you have a constant supply of food to the body, say eating every 2 or 3 hours, it's in a state where it feels as though it can grow. It can contribute to metabolic processes that involve growth. So metabolically and nutritionally, there's a lot of benefit with eating very frequently, but again, every 2 to 3 hours, at least every 3 hours, really no more than that. These people eat 5 small meals a day, 6 small meals a day, whatever it is. So if you're in a state where you have ample amounts of nutrition constantly throughout the day, then your body can increase muscle protein synthesis. mTOR, mammalian target of rapamycin. Shame, what the hell is that? It's just a pathway that's stimulated when you have enough stuff that you're taking in that's healthy, right? Like food, of course, is what we're talking about, that your body feels like it can grow. It doesn't have to go and break down muscles and stuff like that. So it increases muscle protein synthesis, eating like that. Granted, you're eating ample amounts of protein, focusing on healthy fats and fiber. And if you have more muscles, you're going to burn more fat throughout the day. You have a higher resting metabolic rate. And remember, the number one thing you can eat that burns fat is protein. Get it from whole food, not from protein bars that have a list of ingredients like this, or from a protein shake. Albeit if you can't get enough protein, you can supplement something like that. I would say shake before bars, less ingredients, pure whey protein isolate. Okay, so we're building more muscle. Metabolically, you're increasing levels of leptin. And this is a hormone that says, okay, we can, we're going to be metabolically active. We can afford to burn some fat here because we're getting ample amounts of nutrition. I don't need to hold on to everything necessarily. We can start getting rid of some stuff because I'm about to get in 2 more hours, baby. 3 hours of feel good, not stressed. Speaking of no stress, your cortisol levels go down. We call that the stress hormone, right? And cortisol is involved in a myriad of things in the human body. Regulates your diurnal or circadian rhythm, as you guys know it. It regulates levels of inflammation. It regulates metabolic function and hormone levels, metabolic function. So when we're talking metabolism, you're releasing cortisol typically in response to stress, right? And it's a good thing temporarily. And you release it right when you wake up, helps your body wake up, at least for that first hour, really peaks an hour after you wake up. That's also another reason maybe you don't want to eat right when you wake up. I mean, cortisol is high, right? Also, wait a little bit to have your coffee. That's another reason. But we'll talk all about that. We have talked about that. But cortisol, when it's chronically elevated, is not a good thing. It's not a good thing because it's going to negatively affect your metabolism, your insulin function, your insulin sensitivity. What's insulin? A hormone produced by beta cells in the islets of Langerhans of the pancreas. What? Hormone produced by the pancreas. Got it? Tells cells to take sugar out of the blood. Real simple. Okay? So why does that go up when cortisol goes up? Well, because cortisol says we need energy. We're stressed out. So what's it going to go for first? Sugar. Where's that sugar? It's in the liver. We can also produce more of it. So maybe it'll vamp up production of it. Maybe it'll start breaking down sugar stores, glycogen stores. Release it in the blood, need energy. Insulin, come on down from the pancreas and tell us to take that sugar up. And if we take that sugar up, we are not taking down fat. So that is a no bueno thing. Lowers testosterone, growth hormone, insulin like growth factor 1, IGF-1, muscle growth. You think with that, among other things, but elevated cortisol is just not a good thing. It promotes fat storage, namely around the abdomen. It makes your fat cells more sensitive to signals that say, let's store it for energy for later. Your body's really stressed, right? And so it's like, we need to hold on to this for later. Let's just burn some sugar. So the whole point of this was not to make the whole video about cortisol. Cortisol is low when you're eating very frequently, and that is a good thing. That is a good thing because now we can afford to burn some fat. Okay, so we got that leptin up there. We're in the mTOR pathway. Muscles are growing, muscle protein synthesis, right? That leptin, our metabolism, is kicking, right? Our cortisol is low. Leaves you feeling fuller throughout the day. You're eating frequently. You don't feel the need to overeat. You're more satiated, right? You feel fuller. And there's a high thermic effect from that food. It takes a lot of calories to break it down in itself. Protein has the greatest thermic effect of food, right? And so it takes the most energy just to break it down and digest it in itself. And so you're even using energy just to do that, to digest and absorb all the food. And you're eating frequently, right? Reduces your cravings, of course, goes hand in hand with feeling fuller and all this good stuff. So eating frequently can be good. But what's the but? You told me, Shane, on One Wellness 100,000 times, maybe like twice, that if your insulin levels are elevated, and insulin's elevated when you eat, especially sugar, but when you eat in general, typically, to some degree it's up, that when that's up, fat burning goes down because we're using sugar for energy. You're right. So then how could eating frequently make your insulin not spike? That's where the composition of the food really comes into play. So you want to make sure that this is a lot of protein, healthy fats, and fiber. And so if you're eating tons of carbohydrates throughout the day, your insulin will be up all day and you won't burn as much fat. Maybe you get some benefit from the leptin release and the mTOR and that kind of stuff, other pathways. But if you have good composition of the food, healthy fats, protein, fiber, again, then your insulin will never spike. It'll kind of just teeter. And as long as it doesn't spike, you can still get into a ketogenic or fat-burning state, right? Especially focused on a lot of healthy fats, like we said, and protein. What about fasting? Why is that good? Well, we know that fasting is just generally healthy for your body. It reduces inflammation. It improves your insulin sensitivity, how sensitive that insulin is to blood sugar, right? And so it works really well to tell cells to absorb sugar when you eat. It's very efficient. And these things that are on cells, like an insulin receptor or a growth hormone receptor, they are revamped when you fast. Fasting, it's more of a hormetic benefit. What does that mean? Hormesis, what does that mean? Healthy form of stress. Exercise, intermittent fasting, protein, fat, and fiber, all are things that lower insulin. Remember, the one we just talked about, eating frequently, you actually can get 4 of those. You're just missing the fasting. If you exercise, you get 4 of them. But when it comes to fasting, you're revamping cellular mechanisms, not to as much improve muscle growth and body composition, things of that nature at the time, but after you're done fasting and then you eat, Now you have new insulin receptors, growth hormone receptors, you have more of them, and so when these things bind to cells, they have a greater effect. You win on the back end. You can watch our video on revamp, cellular revamp, if you want to get deeper into that, right? We talked about that for a whole day. But aside from the insulin sensitivity, the inflammation, of course, you're getting into ketosis, especially after about 16 hours or so. We call this intermetabolic switching. We're switching from burning sugar, glucogenic, to burning fat, ketogenic. Preliminary stages start at like 12 hours, not really significant. But when you get to 16, your insulin's pretty low and you're starting to burn a decent amount of fat. 18 hours, you start to burn a whole lot of fat. So I try to hit 18 every day, right? Anywhere from 18 to 24. I typically land like 20, 18, something like that. I'm not that black and white about it, but to support my brain health as well, right? Increase BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. What is that? Brain cell production. That's what you gotta know, right? So that's a good thing. Aerobic exercise jacks that up too. By the way, blueberries are the #1 food for increasing BDNF, if you guys were curious. Number 2 is turmeric. Number 3 is dark chocolate or green tea. It might be green tea. 4 is dark chocolate. 5 is wild caught salmon, if you were curious. So brain cell production, right? So you have the BDNF, autophagy you get into. Those are longer fasts. Those are like 24 to 48 hours. Big fast. That's when you start to eat away all the dead dysfunctional stuff in your body and replace it with new, more functional components. Brain cells, receptors, all that kind of stuff, right? And so fasting is generally healthy for you. Boosts your growth hormone. How does fasting then promote fat burning? If you said before, when I have ample amount of nutrition, it puts my body in a state where it doesn't feel stressed at all, low cortisol, and it is in that building state, mTOR. And it's building, but it's also kind of burning fat. So then, how am I going to be burning fat? The idea with fasting, it has to dive into things you have already, like fat stores, to burn them for energy, right? And so you go in and you burn this fat. And your body says, hey, we got to find food, man. So I'm going to vamp you up. I'm going to vamp you up mentally and physically. I'm going to boost that growth hormone, boost that BDNF, get you into autophagy if it's been long enough and we really need to go find a deer to kill because I'm starving, right? And all these good things. And reducing inflammation because it's cleaning house. So, it's really good. AMPK, what is that? Well, that's a pathway that's associated with low energy availability, meaning we're not eating. So we've been fasting. And that is the opposite of the mTOR, where it's not a growth thing, it's an eating away thing. So we're eating away all this stuff, right? And so when you're fasting, you're burning fat, you're vamping up cellular mechanisms for later after you eat, that you can process the food better, you can put it towards growth better, all these things, right? So fasting is really good for your brain, your body. Eating really frequently is good for you, if it's good food. It should also be good food when you fast, when you eat, right? You're not just going to go eat a bunch of crap. But interestingly, on that note, trials have shown that if you eat the same composition of calories, right? If you had this many calories and it was all carbs, or it was all this, I don't recommend fasting, carbs. I have low carb in general. All my carbs have soluble fiber, so they can feed my gut bacteria and improve how I absorb sugar in my body and do some other things too, keep you regular and whatnot. If you have the same food in a short window or spread out, say every 6 hours, something like that, you actually process it better, your body's more efficient. And that's by those cellular mechanisms getting vamped up, where we can process that food better from fasting, right? So afterwards, you will process that same amount of carbohydrates, namely, easier and more efficiently. The insulin will work better, it's more sensitive. So what about the in-betweener? So the in-betweener, they eat a banana in the morning. They go 6 hours, they eat a salad. They're like, I don't get it, man. I don't get it, I'm not losing any fat. If you eat few enough calories, you will lose weight because you're eating less than you're burning. But the most important thing when it comes to that whole principle to remember is this: how you're manipulating your hormones. It's the timing of your eating and the composition of your calories that really matters, and how it manipulates your body to act from the inside, right? So calories in, calories out doesn't take into account how you look, how you feel, how you perform. It's just talking about weight loss. We all want to look, feel, and perform, and not in that order necessarily, right? Maybe for some, not for me. They all kind of go hand in hand though, better, right? And so the composition of the food is extremely important, and your timing of eating. It's either got to be really frequent or it's got to be intermittent fasting. So this in-betweener, so what's kind of going on here? Well, they had that little banana in the morning or that bowl of cereal, whatever the hell it was, and say it was eating something healthy, right? But one, if it doesn't have enough protein, if they don't have enough protein throughout the day, which that's hard to get with just those 2 meals, if you fast and then you feast, at least you're feasting, you're getting a lot of protein. You can still meet that mark, as I do every day. If, say, trying to burn fat, at least your body weight in grams in general for everyone, but if you're trying to burn fat, 120 to 150% of your body weight in grams of protein for the day, and I can hit that, right? Eating in a short window of time. My stomach will hold on to a lot of it until I'm ready to absorb the rest of my intestines, right? We know that, CCK. Hormone released from your gut, cholecystokinin. It says to the stomach, hold on to that food, man. I'm not ready to absorb it yet. You hold it, and then I'll absorb it later. Is how I can eat a lot at one short time and still absorb 300 grams of protein in a day or so. So it's a myth. You can't absorb all that from one meal. Will you absorb it at once? No, but later you will. So these people who are fasting, they're not getting, these people, who are not fasting or eating really frequently, they're in-betweeners. They're raising their insulin just enough to stop fat burning, but they are not, and usually they're not getting enough protein too, which is the number one thing that promotes fat burning, right? Higher resting metabolic rate, leaves you feeling fuller. High thermic effect from the protein you eat, takes more calories to digest and break it down. But their insulin's going up, not to the degree where it's going to promote growth. The body's not that comfortable like the frequent eater, where it says, okay, we can start stimulating NPS and mTOR, those muscle growth things, or the anabolic things, just growth in general and proliferation of things, right? That's a good thing. And it's not low enough, the insulin, that you're going to support fat burning, or that you're going to get the benefits from fasting and reducing the inflammation and boosting the BDNF and the growth hormone, all this other good stuff. So don't be an in-betweener. In-between is the worst. Pick one of the extremes. That's what we got for you guys today. I hope it was helpful in understanding how to manipulate your metabolism. That the composition of your calories matters so much. It's not as simple as calories in, calories out, unless you're talking about weight loss in itself, which I think we're most interested in, at least probably most of you out there. Burning fat, right, and maintaining muscle and looking good and feeling good and thinking well and all these things, right, and being healthy. So, don't be the in-betweener. Who do we got on here? Say what's up? What's up, Shell? How are you? It's Jose Matos, TS. Itana Granado, thanks for coming on. Nate, what's up? Dobson, Das, Ayo Housen. Rocco, what's up, man? Gray, Sibia, and Disney Bound. Good for you, as for now. So we got for you, folks. We'll see you Wednesday, baby. I'm not sure where, and I'm not sure when, but I will see you then, because we see you every Wednesday, and we love One Wellness Wednesday, and we love you guys. Have an amazing night. Thank you so much. Ciao.